As I said, 9:15. Ronan O'Gara, good morning to you.
Hey Adrian, how are you?
Good. You've a few cases, have you?
Yeah, a few cases, but nothing fatal in terms of, we've had them sporadically, I think the word is, but we've been ultra cautious. Obviously, we haven't had a training week, unfortunately, but that's not the issue. We just got to try and make sure that we have a lot of fit and healthy bodies, but obviously the times we're in, even with everyone doubly vaccinated, masks, gels throughout the week, no obviously contact training or anything like that. We have a few cases, but we're awaiting. The results yesterday were very good, so we're just awaiting today's PCR test to enable us to just put a shape on our team.
No training at all, is that?
No, we were able to do, obviously the week was changed because one of the cases was am I there?
You're there,
One of the cases were, so we played Sunday night, so Monday was recovery. One of the guys wasn't feeling well on Monday, so I immediately just got him checked, and then he was positive, so that was on Tuesday. So everyone, you just got the direction from the club was, okay, everyone home to their own place, and no contact with anybody, and we just do testing the Wednesday morning, but you have to wait for the results, obviously. So there was one more case in that, but going back previous week we had another case, so we just have to manage it very, very, very carefully, because it's different rules for the domestic competition as it is for Europe. I think the reality, which is good in one way, is that rugby is going on, and it's survival of the positive versus the negative. So thankfully, obviously with people being vaccinated, there's the guys aren't showing any symptoms of it, but you just got to. Some guys were feeling a little bit off, so they got to go and isolate for 10 days.
Yeah, you're not dealing with the full sort of Johan van Gran suite of issues.
No.
And a good week to have a home game, Ronan, I presume, as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's very important, and obviously we can. It's kind of good, and when your, I suppose, timetable has been turned upside down, once you just keep a little bit of composure maybe and adaptability. It's rugby we do at the end of the day. You don't need to be there 9 to 5. So we need a good session today. We're hopefully get results maybe at mid-afternoon. So with the flexibility of the boys and their attitude, we will hopefully convene then, and we get a chance to get a run through today and a captain's run tomorrow. And players are made for playing games, they're not made for training, so we can deal with this.
Ronan, how does European week differ to a top 14 week in your camp?
Very little difference this year. I think obviously trying to sell the European dream for the last 2 seasons was interesting work in La Rochelle, because with a club with no history in the competition, or very little history, it was I suppose uncharted territory. But I think the taste we got last year, and even though it was awful in some regards, that is, Twickenham was empty for a final. The boys, the competitors in the group, got a taste of what could be. So I think the build up to this week has been obviously distracted with the COVID issues, but we know on Sunday that it's a big game, and it's knockout rugby really in Europe from the start. So we'll be looking to start fast. But no, the group as a whole are excited by Europe, because I think once you've tasted something, it means you can really go after it.
When you're trying to sell the dream, is it like what happened at Twickenham? Does that, because it can go one of two ways, obviously, off the back of that, and you don't know that necessarily, I guess, until you get your season up and running. But there can be a deflation that follows it that you might not know about yet until you get back into the tournament. Have you felt that, like, there's been a big sales job, to use your terminology, involved still, or is everybody there?
No, like I think there was definitely a hangover at the start of the season. We had really difficult fixtures, but we also, I think, digesting 2 defeats in finals is, 1 final is enough, but 2 is more than enough. But when you strip it back, there's so much to be kind of pleased with. So you gotta look at it and build it in that way, because every other team in Europe wants to get to the final day, and every other team in the top 14 wants to get to the final day. So if you double that, it's bloody magnificent. But we didn't kill our opposition on the day, but that can happen some other time. You got to keep knocking on the door, I'm convinced, and good things will happen. So we had that, and I would have been worried if we hit the ground running at the start of the season, because it means maybe they're right and difficult messages haven't been taken on board. But I think we started slow, and I think when you're probably not a proven team, I think you put so much energy into the normal season that maybe we probably lack that final gear for playoff rugby, if I was to be probably critical of myself. But I think the overriding probably emotion or feedback from ourselves analysing would be it was good, really good, but obviously not great, because you don't win at the end of the day.
Are you over it?
Am I over it? I don't think you're ever over finals. I think they fuel you for what you want next, and I think as you get a little bit older and more experienced, you realise, and some players don't get it, that like they think that the final is an 80 minutes, but actually it's the culmination of years and years and years of work, and the opportunity just blows up within 80 minutes. So that hurts badly, but I think you love it, and you want to get back there, and you're back to square one, and you prepare as best you can.
When you say it fuels you, Ronan, like what emotion is that? Is that a sort of anger? Is it sort of we need to make the right decision last year?
I think that's something that's probably emotion in terms of it has to play a role, but it can't be the driving force. Otherwise, you'll be completely, burnt out and relying on emotion. I think you have to have a plan on. You have to be very, very calculated. And you have to be very, I suppose, organised in your preparation. Potentially, your team's preparation, your own preparation, and for preparation, there's so many different facets. As there's the physical, but also the mental side of it, and then there's the challenge of explaining it in one language to another, and that's interesting in its own regard, because it's the daily challenge of coaching in a different language, but that will stand to me in a different job going forward. But I think you have to. I think the consistency of behaviours is what really interests me. I think you have to push your players to a limit that you nearly get the best out of them, but also where the breaking point is, where if you go a little bit too far, you could lose this guy, or if you go not enough with this guy, you're not getting the best out of them. And they're all very, very different, and it's a fascinating, I suppose, exercise in just knowing your subject matter.
On the back of last weekend then, seething, all but frothing was the expression that you used in your Examiner column this morning. How does that marry with that fine line of pushing people and, pushing them too far at times? I presume there's a temptation after that I don't know, how do you communicate and ultimately keep everybody in the same train moving forward when you're in it's that red zone, redhead versus bluehead, right? Are you in bluehead pretty quickly?
No, because it's sure, what does a bollocking serve? You know what I mean? You, like a few years ago, maybe you do it and you think you feel great, but sure, 3 minutes later, what message have the players got? What have they understood? How are they going to be better the next time? You've released all your emotions on who? Sure. How did the team get better with that? You know, I just don't think that's the solution. What was the solution? I think just after a Stade Francais game, when you're leading 20 points to 6, is just game management needed to be a little bit better, and our killer instinct needed to be a little better. And winning away from home is difficult, but it also requires we need to establish a minimum standard of performance. What's a minimum standard of performance? It differs from every player, but what you're trying to create in your group is that even when it's a difficult day, your performance graph probably hits a 5 or 6 out of 10 away from home, as opposed to a 2 or 3 out of 10. We didn't hit 2 or 3 out of 10 because we were excellent for 33 minutes. But why stop after 33 minutes? Just keep going. Just keep doing the simple things. Don't get bored with the simple things. But we just we will be better for it, because it's another I suppose learning experience, and I'm convinced with the right people and the more situations you put them in, the better they will be prepared for when it matters.
I know it was a rhetorical question, Ronan, but I'd just like to ask it to you anyway. When you say, what does a bollocking serve? Is that day gone in rugby where it does actually serve something, or people think that it serves something?
No, it's not gone.
Is that saying you still have to?
No, I didn't go there. But I have gone there in the not so distant past. So I think you probably have 2 mulligans a season, and I think that has to be the cutoff point, because it's the same if you're consistency of behaviours, yes, but also I think you have to have an accountability factor where are we making progress, or are we regressing? Are we making progress? You have to keep, I suppose, critiquing your team, and that's one of the ideas. And keep critiquing myself, because it's a team effort, it's a management effort, it's a squad effort, and I think once you get people aligned, you have a very good chance.
So when you're past the 2 mulligans, what happens? That's it, or there's some.
When you're past 2 mulligans before Christmas, you're in trouble.
But from your point of view, are you looking at that going, all right, we need to replace this guy, or like, because people receive messages in different ways, or what you're saying there, obviously, like post Stad week the weekend, and you're talking in your column in the Examiner again about you're sitting there thinking this game's in the bag, you're 14 points up, a kick to make it 16, and it doesn't happen, and then suddenly the consistency that you talk about is not there. So I mean, I presume that with a lot of your players you can sit down and say, listen, I need you to be consistent. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, of course.
No, but I think it's usually I find once players, I think, especially good players, I think they learn from it, and it's very rare, that they repeat the same effort or the same errors, 2 weeks in a row. So we're going to make errors against Glasgow, but you're hoping it's not exactly the same that we did against Stade Francais. Otherwise, there's a lack of comprehension for your message, or there's a lack of buy-in from the players. These players don't have a lack of buy-in, that's for sure. So it's, however I'm describing what I want isn't hitting their I suppose mental intake. So it comes back to keeping the message simple, obviously, but it also comes back to not having too many messages as well.
Yeah. I presume there is a way back from 2 mulligans if you're like shooting the lights out at some point later in the season. It's kind of in the rear view mirror, you're shooting the lights out, or you're locking down a scrum, or whatever it might be, or have you got your little black book?
No, because it's very different too, and every scenario is different, Adrian, because like the top 14 is a marathon. You don't use 23 players, you use over 40 or 50 players. So like you have different squad makeup, team makeup every time. So from that point of view, it's probably different analysis platform for how you're reviewing the game, because you probably have your strongest team for the end of the season. At the minute, what I believe in is using the squad to the best of your ability. So you select different groups for different opposition, and that's continuously changing depending on how players are going, but how the opposition are going as well, and what kind of, I suppose, what you have the following week or what you had the previous week. So and you're battling a little bit of history in the fact that obviously away games are perceived as difficult in France, but you're trying to, I suppose, convince people that the 4 points at home are exactly the same as the 4 points available away from home. So why have this, I suppose, massive disparity between the two of them? So you're trying to juggle that a bit, but I think it's definitely progress, and it's definitely a competitive, healthy group that I have, but you're always looking to be a little bit better. If you're content with what you're doing, then there's something wrong, because that wouldn't be sport.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting weekend ahead. We look forward to it. Just before we let you go, have you any policy for dealing with lads who turn up late for work, Ronan? Any sort of punishment that you'd have for them? Or we had a lad here this morning who, 7:30 the show begins, and I'm sitting there on my own, staring into the abyss.
Jeez, I wouldn't want to rob a bank with you, I tell you. You're hanging them out to dry. If you were a good wingman now, you would have presumed nothing and said, no, the show was for 1 this morning.
That's what I did. That's what I did. But you see, Owen made the mistake then of actually turning up at some point late in the show. So
I can tell you, Ronan, Adrian used his mulligan this morning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, that's it. I learned a few things when you're the experienced players in Irish camp, the guys who have a bit of balls. If they're late for a meeting, they'll sit it out. The worst thing you can do is walk into a meeting that has already started. If you can hold it. If you can hold it and kind of, no, I was there. That takes a bit of balls at national level, but I've seen a few beauties over the years do it.
Solid.
Admire it.
Solid advice. Listen, best of luck on Sunday. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Have a good weekend.
Ronan
Cheers.
O'Gara,
Bye-bye.
on the line there from La Rochelle. It was good advice, on.
Adrian,
should have just sat it out.
If you ever showed up late, there will be, I don't know, I was going to say there will be, we will rain hell down on your life or something like that, but it probably won't happen. We'll probably actually just be sound about it, unlike you're being this morning. But I appreciate it.
I'm sure it's happened.